My name is Karen Sias, and the person I chose to interview is my father, Joe Sias. Joe has been a leader in a number of positions. When he was in college, he started as a gymnastics coach. Later, after having kids, he became a hockey coach for several of his son's teams. And he started his first business when he was in his mid-20s, a payroll company that he later sold to a nationally recognized bank. My experience with Joe as a leader took place mostly at the restaurant that he started and ran for almost 30 years. I've always looked up to him as a leader and tried to model my own leadership style after his. This is why I chose to interview Joe. I asked what characteristics he thought made a good leader, and he said it's someone who can look at the big picture and see what's needed to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Someone who has the ability to evaluate each individual follower to understand what motivates them, and the willingness to do what you're asking others to do. He also says you have to have garnered the respect of those you wish to lead. These qualifications are what Joe based his leadership style on. As far as what qualities make a poor leader, Joe said someone who is selfish, intolerant, ego-driven, and someone who puts their own needs and goals in front of those of the group. I asked Joe who he looked up to for their own leadership skills and abilities, and he named several people. His father, my grandfather, was the number one person he looked up to. He instilled in my father and myself that status doesn't matter. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and deserves to have their opinion heard. It doesn't matter if it's the CEO of a company or the janitor cleaning the floors. If a decision impacts a person, they deserve to have a say in it. He also mentions people like Ronald Reagan, Bud Grant, the longtime Minnesota Vikings coach, Willard Eichela, who is the hockey coach from Edina High School when Joe attended, and Herb Brooks, one of the coaches from the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team. To get a glimpse of Herb Brooks's leadership abilities, I recommend watching the movie Miracle. They were all great leaders for different reasons, but overall, they were focused and driven to accomplish their goals. Joe mentioned that one common characteristic that several of those people possessed was that they were able to look at individual followers and assess what motivated them. And then they were able to use that to achieve success as a group. I asked Joe if he had any defining moments in developing his leadership style, and he mentioned his failures. One of Joe's earlier businesses wasn't successful, and because of that, he had to look inward and figure out what he did wrong. From this, he was able to look at what he did as leader and adapt his leadership style to what it is now. He said he didn't learn as much from his successes because at those times, he didn't have to stop and think about what he could have done differently. This is also where he learned to become a good leader. He mentions taking classes similar to this one in college about management and leadership, but the most influential factor in becoming a good leader was experience. The classes were nice for learning about theories, but being in the actual scenarios where leadership was needed taught him the most. One thing that surprised me from the interview was when I asked Joe if he had learned anything about leadership from being a follower. He said he had learned very little from being a follower. He said he'd learned that some people, like himself, are natural leaders and others are natural followers. This isn't bad, and he acknowledges that the world needs followers. But without leaders, there would be chaos and nothing would get done. To end the interview, I asked what his proudest moment as a leader was. Joe said it was starting a business from nothing and having it thrive for nearly 30 years in an industry that has a very high rate of failure. I'm glad I had the chance to interview Joe, and I think I learned a lot about who he is as a leader and as a person. I hope that I'll be able to take this and improve my own leadership abilities. Thank you.